Joy Boy.
Hey YouTube, Joy Boy here.
Not theories, but Joy Boy, this person. That's what Neptune described him as. He said Joy Boy is a person who lived during the 100-year void. So today we're talking about Joy Boy. People, if you have not read One Piece, if you've not read One Piece chapter 1040, crazy, you're 40 chapters past chapter 1000. Oh my God. If you have not read One Piece chapter 1040, you will be spoiled. That's it. That's all I got to say on that topic. Now, Joy Boy. I went back recently and I reread everything in regards to Joy Boy. The full conversation between Nico, Robin, and Neptune. Roger talking about Joy Boy. Even Roger talking about the Sovereigns in Fishman Island. Well, in the flashback. When they went to Fishman Island, the Sovereigns to be born, when the Neptunians were talking about that. To try to make sense of what's going on. Well, if you don't know what's going on, that means you didn't read the chapter. So you probably need to go read the chapter and come back. But if you do know what's going on, in the recent chapter, they talked about Joy Boy and his nakama. And apparently Zunisha, 800 years ago, committed a very serious crime. And that crime was, we don't know. However, Zunisha is Joy Boy's companion, nakama. I don't know what to make of this because I have so many thoughts. Because what? Again, Joy Boy existed or lived during the 100-year void. So 800, 900 years ago. That's what we're around there. Back in Zou, they talked about how Zunisha committed a crime and how it was specified to just walk. And that's why it needed permission from Momonosuke to attack Jack. So now, with Joy Boy, going back to Joy Boy really quickly, he is somebody from 800 years ago who existed, who made a promise to Fishman Island, couldn't fulfill the promise, wrote a letter, and then left behind something at Laugh Tale, which Roger laughed at for whatever reason. So there's so many things here to dissect. First, Joy Boy and his partner, his nakama. It was stated that Zunisha needed orders to do anything to Jack, but Zunisha's punishment was to walk. But the only person who could order Zunisha was Momonosuke, meaning the person that made Zunisha walk must be a Kozuki, right? Other things. For Joy Boy, he was slated to basically work with Poseidon in tandem, using the Noah, presumably saving the people of Fishman Island. So in that instance, I'm assuming Joy Boy as well had the voice of all things. So can we look at Zunisha and say Zunisha is an actual person that has a devil fruit, or is Zunisha just an elephant? And the reason why Zunisha was Joy Boy's nakama is because Joy Boy had the voice of all things, but Joy Boy had to have been working in tandem with someone else controlling Zunisha, probably a Kozuki. But how can we have the situation where Zunisha committed a crime, was forced to walk, but then the Kozuki is someone that can force her or make her do something else, another order? So was the Kozuki the people that forced Zunisha to walk? Did Zunisha commit a crime against the Kozuki? Are the Kozuki the bad guys? Which doesn't make sense because the Kozuki, they wrote on the poneglyphs, which means they were aiding the ancient kingdom, putting things in place for us to be where we are now. And Zunisha, could it be there's someone else with a power that can force her to walk and only the Kozuki can break that power? Because it's not lining up. I believe there's one more person to be revealed here, because I don't think Joy Boy was commanding Zunisha, but something I was always thinking about: for the ancient kingdom to be defeated, you always need someone to betray the superpower, right? Like there's somebody that maybe betrayed the ancient kingdom, maybe betrayed Joy Boy. Or could it be that Joy Boy forced his nakama to walk for this long? But it doesn't make sense because it committed a crime. But you know, the annals of history, we really don't know. Things could be just misconstrued or lost in time. And that's why, again, I mentioned this before, that Oda, how he writes is about, hey man, that's what they say, I don't know. And as things go over time, things change, the stories change. You play telephone, you understand, like as you tell people things, the story either gets worse or better. And you're like, wait, that's not what I said. That's not what happened. So in this scenario, again, putting it in perspective, you have Joy Boy, this person that was supposed to do something but couldn't for whatever reason, right? Work in tandem with Poseidon to help the people of Fishman Island, wrote a letter apologizing because he couldn't do it anymore. His nakama got sentenced to a crime. It's like something went bad quickly for the most part, where he had to just cancel his plans. But then someone is going to come in his stead to fulfill his obligations. Inherited will or destiny? Depends on how you're looking at it. I do find it intriguing, and I'm just super curious how we're gonna transition to this story, right? Because even Kaido knows about it, saying, hey, you can be Joy Boy either. It feels like he at some point wanted to be Joy Boy, felt like he could be Joy Boy, but there's a missing piece. There's a missing person, I think. Again, Joy Boy, I believe, had the voice of all things, and that's how he was communicating with something like Zunisha. But what crime did Zunisha commit? What crime to the point that she had, or it had to walk for this long? And again, it feels odd because where Zunisha is now with Momonosuke, it feels like that's where she had to be all along. But then we have to remember how Toki fits into all this, where Toki's goal was to get Wano from back then, and she came from the Void Century. You know, my theory, right? And when I try to piece things together, my theory is maybe it was a similar scenario, or it could be two scenarios. One, Zunisha was Joy Boy's Nakama, and Joy Boy being a person from the ancient kingdom, he had a crew of companions, and their goal, they were tasked with basically setting things up to be where they are now. I'm sure Toki would be involved in some way. Maybe that was her task, right? And then Zunisha's task could be maybe sacrificial, where this person, their task was to end up here right now and to carry an ancient kingdom like Zou. Not necessarily the ancient kingdom, but Zou is a very ancient kingdom in its own right. It carried an entire race of species it was stated that they could not die, right? So that is a very important task, but how do you hide that? How better do you hide that than by being sentenced to walk for this long, where you're just this ancient relic, where you can't even get to Zou without a Vivid Guard? So in a way, that's protecting something, right? Protecting information. The poneglyph was on Zou. So it could be a self-sacrificial thing where, like Kuma, we figure with Dragon, where he goes in there and he sacrifices himself on purpose. So it's like, Zunisha, we want you to go in and do this thing, and then they're gonna force you to walk, or, you know, it's weird because the Kozuki can control her, tell her what to do. Is this telling us that Imu or someone on the other side was Kozuki as well, right? Because I think betrayal had to happen somewhere. Wires had to be crossed between these people where someone from the opposite side helped the people that weren't in power. The ancient kingdom was betrayed by someone because they had all the power. That's how I look at it. And what makes this all intriguing is I believe Oda is leaving out one person. There's one more person, I believe. Like, I think there's a Joy Boy, right? And there's a Zunisha, but there's one more person. I believe Joy Boy is the conduit, right? Not necessarily the person that can do everything, but the person that can monitor or basically communicate with the people that can cause the change. So you have Luffy as Joy Boy, but then you have Momonosuke, you have Shirahoshi, you have these people that are doing the actual things, but Joy Boy is the focus, the person that is overseeing all of this. Then I wonder who's communicating to you guys to subscribe to the channel, right? And drop a like and turn on post notifications. Who's doing that? Well, I guess that's my job today. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like, turn on post notifications, and that would make me, there's one more. There gotta be one more. Because again, we have the connection with the Kozuki and Zunisha. That would be Momonosuke. We presume that he could be an ancient weapon, or how he controls Zunisha is very similar to how Shirahoshi controls the Neptunians, right? So you have Luffy, you have Momonosuke, you have Shirahoshi, you have the Sea Kings, you have Zunisha. Who are the other two? Or what are the other two? What's the other large calamity that can be controlled, and who is the other individual who slots in here? If Joy Boy is representative and we assume that's Luffy, he had other people in place. Who are these people? Who are these ancient people that we will come to know of that had a major impact on the history of the world? Joy Boy had a crew. There were a crew of people that set out, I think, to change the world. But come to find out, their mission wasn't to change it. It was to facilitate change, to set things up. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Madam Shirley, her power, that is not the first time someone was able to do this in history. Somebody else in the past had the power Madam Shirley has now to be able to tell what was going to happen. The poneglyphs and how they were spread out, the different things the ancient kingdom was able to do to make sure everything didn't fall into the hands of the world government, too perfect. But then I think about the Lunarians. How do they tie into this? Because I'm sure they were betrayed as well. But my major thing is who had the power to control Zunisha to force her to walk. But then we have Momonosuke, who had the power to basically tell her what to do as well. Did we have somebody on opposite sides where two people could do the same thing, but they were on opposite sides? One could control you and the other where both could be Kozuki? How important are the Kozuki in all of this? Like, again, I feel like the strands are connecting, but we're still just so in the dark, because again, we were told Zunisha committed a crime, but we weren't told that Zunisha was the Nakama of Joy Boy. So it's like we get a connection, but then we're like, okay, how do these other things, how do they connect? How does it make sense if Zunisha was Joy Boy's Nakama, it got sentenced for a crime, but then the person who could control Zunisha was a Kozuki, but the Kozuki are the ones who inscribed the poneglyphs? They were the only person who could do that because of a specific technique or whatever. That would mean a Kozuki betrayed them, or the person whose will Momonosuke inherited was the person who was on the opposite side who betrayed them. And now Momonosuke is the person who can tell them what to do. It is wild how great Oda set it up. So you really have no idea. You can speculate, but I do think something went really wrong where Joy Boy had the time to write the letter because he knew things were not going to succeed. He was like, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. Did he go to try to save his Nakama? Did he go against the world government? Did he entrust the future to this prophecy that this kid, this person will come along one day and be able to do the things that I need them to do or they need to do? Because the prophecy, the promise that Joy Boy made that he broke, the apology letter mentions that someone will come and fulfill this. Then we have the Madam Shirley vision showing Luffy coming and destroying Fishman Island. It's all weird. Was the crime that Zunisha committed was destroying something that was to be destroyed? That was part of this prophecy? What could it be? Did Zunisha destroy something, for instance? Because we talk about the continent pullers like oars, etc. And in Joy Boy, if Joy Boy was a large person himself, right? The person that wore the first straw hat. He was maybe a continent puller, and Zunisha's crime was basically separating all these things, pulling apart a continent, separating things to make it difficult for the world government to truly attain power. Maybe that's something. That's a crime to the world government, but that's Zunisha actually saving the world. And it's twofold because you do that, but then you also carry this ancient kingdom in Zou on your back for eons. I don't know anything. I mean, we know some, but we know some, but we don't know enough. And I think that's masterful. It's a masterclass. I'm expecting a crew. I expected Joy Boy had a crew of people that were entrusted with things. Bro, I believe Toki had some ties. Her job was to get to Wano. That's her goal. You go to Wano. Initially, Toki hinted that she was running from her duty, but then she figured that with Odin, she would end up exactly where she needed to be, and she ended up in Wano, right? You're the moon unaware of the dawn. What does that mean? What does that mean? You are the moon unaware of the dawn. Interesting. It's so much, guys. But give me your thoughts. What do you feel about all this? I said a lot, but I feel like I've even confused you more because of all the moving parts. Emu does pop into my head a lot. I don't know where Emu fits into all this. Guys, give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram, BragoD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys all so much. Again, guys, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
I start doubting me, I felt lost.